All right, hey everyone, thanks for stopping in here. It's Micah here with a quick kind of a review of just, this Logitech K650 keyboard, right? Full size keyboard for, PC or, basically universal. I don't know if it works on Mac and maybe so, but, either way, just giving you a few of the things that I've experienced using it for maybe about like 3 to 4 months, right? Now, when I got this keyboard, it was really just to replace a much smaller basic Dell keyboard, right? So it's not like I had much of a great keyboard before, but it was a stable keyboard. It was good. It just didn't have, extra buttons. So this is, a few features of this keyboard here that like I like or maybe even dislike maybe about it, right? I'm trying to think of a few things. You can see it's full sized, so it takes up a little desk space, right? It's not like real heavy, but it does feel kind of like, it feels like a full-size keyboard you're holding. And if I weigh it, I have a scale here. It seems to weigh about 1.8 pounds, a little over 1.8 pounds, or 1 pound 8 ounces, I should say. I think 1 pound 8.9 ounces approximately. So, almost what, pound and a half, about a pound and a half. So it's not like real heavy, but it's a little weighty. And you can see it's got this pad down here for a wrist rest, right? So this is like a rubberized, kind of firm rubber. It's very firm, so it feels basically just like hard plastic, just about. It's not very big on this part here. So if like, especially if you like me, like fairly sizable hands, you can put your hands on here, but not really have your palms like on the rest unless you're kind of, curling your fingers, right? And you can hear it's like not a real loud keyboard, it's pretty quiet. So it's got like the rubber dome type style keyboard, right? It's not like clickable mechanical keyboard, right? Like a gaming keyboard. But you can see it's pretty quiet when I press, it's not like real loud, but it makes a little bit of sound. Now this keyboard's got a couple of features on it. Like one main factor is that the function button. When you press the function button and the escape button, right, it locks and unlocks the media buttons on the top here, right? So you can have regular function keys up here when the media button is locked or unlocked, either whatever it is. You press function and the escape key, and it unlocks the media buttons. There's a little lock on there, right? So press function to go between those two modes. So if your function keys aren't working right, like it might be a little confusing when you first get this keyboard. This keys here are designed to show options for Mac, actually. So yeah, it does work on an Apple, right? So it has the command key or whatever keys you would use with an Apple, Safari or whatever Apple is using now. But then it has the other side of the key is showing you the options for Windows, right? So they don't look like your normal Windows keyboard. They look a little bit different. The icons there, it just says option and command for Apple, right? So then it says start menu or your Windows menu essentially, and alt, right? Your alt key. So those might look a little confusing at first, but that's because it's made to show both options for Mac and for PC, right? So, but like I said, you can see it's fairly, it's not like a jumbo keyboard that's got a huge foam thing down here. So if you want like, something for bigger hands and you really want your wrist to be able to rest on a cushion pad, you might either get a separate pad or a bigger keyboard, right? But overall, I like the keyboard. It's pretty decent, right? It's not like it's real clickable, like maybe a mechanical clicky, slimmer keyboard. It's not real wide or like like would you say blocky or jumbly, right? It's got 2 feet here in the back that are rubberized, and they can change to multiple levels. Like it's got a little option right here. You can see you can make a shorter foot and then a longer foot, and then a rubberized on the bottom here, so it's got grip. And then over here, of course, and then it's got a compartment for the batteries back here, because the batteries, I think they're supposed to last up to 3 years. And you see I just have a couple of energizers in here, right? So it's just a couple of AA energizer batteries, and then there's a place where you can store the dongle, right, which is obviously is in my computer right at the moment. It's just, I think it's a Bolt dongle, which is the Bolt technology, so it doesn't just work with any, I don't think it works with any universal Logitech unifying, dongle. This is a specific dongle. You know, you want to have the specific dongle for this keyboard. So if you ever see one for sale or something without the dongle, you know, just know that ahead of time. You'd want to have the specific dongle. So, but yeah, like I said, it has the media mode, right? So to change the function keys into these media keys, then you have these few other media volume keys, and, you know, pause and volume, you know, skip to your videos and tracks and so forth. But then on these media keys for the function keys on here, it gives you a few different options, right? So there's, you know, brighten and so forth. And the first couple of keys can brighten and so forth through the display. You know, I mean, I don't know why for some reason it doesn't brighten my display. I'm not sure it's because some settings I use an app called Monitorian. So for multiple monitors especially, it helps you to quickly dim the screen. It's called Monitorian. You might check it out if you don't know about it already. Monitorian, but that's just a quick plug. You know, I'm not getting paid for any of that. I'm just, you know, just saying that because I personally use it. But this it does have that brighten and dimming option on the first two keys. Then you have, you know, your options to change the windows to different displays on your screen quickly. Like if you want to have the windows in a certain format, or if you want to have them all like square right next to each other, it'll quickly do that with those options. Like I said, this is with the function key and the media lock key. When you press them on or off, depends on if you're in the media mode or not. And you see there's other ones here. So, excuse me, it goes into, you know, emojis. This one here is maybe voice dictation, I believe. So you can voice dictate quickly on your computer as long as you have your mic hooked up, right? So then the emojis. And then can't set up your camera or screenshot. Can't remember which one, or maybe both or something. But then you have mute your microphone, right? This one here, I think, is just back on your browser, right? So it quickly presses the back button on your browser, then refresh, and then what is that? Exits out, or I can't remember exactly what those are for. I think they add new tabs or something along that line. So add or close, open or close a new tab, right? So if I'm correct. And there's a few other ones over here. It does have some kind of Bluetooth hookup, but it doesn't have multi-device support. So if you want to move it to a different device, you're gonna have to like move the dongle around again. You can't, for whatever reason, the Bluetooth doesn't have multi-device support. So it's just something to consider. But it is a full keyboard. You know, it's got the full layout over here. Got a full number keypad, right? So you will feel like, you know, you have enough room to spread your wings, so to speak, when using it. But the keys, the way they're shaped, you can see they're kind of like domed into each other, right? Instead of more of a flat side to each key that like maybe a lot of more clickable keyboards have. So this is designed to be kind of like semi-quiet office keyboard, maybe more, right? It's more like something like, you know, you'd have if you were in a mid-range level office job or something like that. They have something a little bit above the cheapest thing, right? You know, it's reasonable. It's got some extra features to it, but it's not like a super price. I think it's like, you know, 30 or 40 bucks, maybe new. So maybe a few more bucks, depends on where you get it from. So, but if you have one of these, maybe you know more about it, you want to add some notes into this video, and maybe let me know your thoughts on it, right? So thank you for listening to this video, by the way. You know, so these are just a few things. You know, what do I like the most about it? I like that it's pretty quiet and it's got the full size keyboard to it, right? And that it's wireless, right? And long-lasting battery. I had to change them at all, of course, which it's only been a few months, but you know, that factor, just to be able to pick it up and clean my desk easily and so forth, that's like, you know, that's important to me. Which, you know, if you're playing like high-end games or something, you might be more concerned about having a different kind of keyboard. It's not like it's designed to play like real fast, you know, first-person shooters, etc. But it'll probably do okay on most games. Depends on what your level of competitiveness and edginess and how much, you know, you're into playing high-end games and so forth. But for regular gameplay, excuse me, it'll probably be decent. You probably won't experience any major problems unless you're like an elite gamer or something like that. But if you want more of something that feels more gamey, right, you'd want to probably go for a keyboard with like backlit. Like this doesn't have any backlighting, right? Now I don't feel like these keyboards are gonna like necessarily wear off real quickly, but you can see how these are kind of like this painted on decal type of, you know if you can see them, but you maybe get an idea. They're, you know, so hopefully they don't wear off. They feel like they'll probably last a reasonable amount of time, but if you type real heavy, that's something to maybe consider. You might want something with a different keyboard key print. But also, like I said, you might like to have backlighting, or maybe a bigger wrist rest, or maybe you don't want a wrist rest at all. Maybe you're wanting a different style of keyboard, right? But like I said, for mid-range office and home use, it's a pretty good keyboard, right? I could probably think of some other ones if I did some searches. I would think, oh, that's more appealing. But I really can't complain that much about it. I do wish this padding was a little bit bigger, maybe, so I would be able to implement, use it a little bit better. Because when I'm typing, my hands aren't huge, but they're sizable enough to where, like, if I'm typing, usually my wrist is kind of down here, right? So I'm not really hugely benefiting from that. But I do have this mouse pad too. Actually, it's kind of big, right? And I just got this off of like Amazon. Now this mouse pad, it seemed a little overkill, right? And it might cost like 15 or 20 bucks. But I had another mouse pad, just a cheap one, and the gel that was on there for the wrist kind of messed up. So this is kind of a good mouse pad. I recommend this style of mouse pad if you want to have something that's really comfortable for your wrist. But you might also want to have some kind of padding for the front of your keyboard if you're getting another kind of keyboard. This one might do for you, but like I said, it's not like particularly soft there. It's just like, it feels like hard rubberized, kind of like a real stiff rubber, basically just like hard plastic. So anyway, that's the Logitech K650 keyboard. Maybe drop me a line. Of course, a like or react is certainly welcome. Maybe check out my other videos that you might see a directive to another video or two on the top here towards the end of this video, and maybe come back to the station for some potentially other reviews, commentary, and thoughts on other products, and maybe some other thoughts. So thanks again for listening. Micah here signing out, and we'll see you in the next video. Enjoy your next keyboard.